It's Thursday night. We're back again. Look at that. Only two of us made it this week, though, Ben. Jimmy,
Right.
unfortunately, is packing for a move. We wish you luck, Jimmy. He might be listening in, so we can't talk bad about him. But you got to be careful here. But we miss Jimmy. Should be back next week. But we have the original two here for the stream. Ben and Josh at it again. You know, we were just talking before the stream got started, guys. Time goes fast. You know, we were talking about how quickly things move. We were on the verge of Andor. But I feel like we just watched Kenobi like a couple weeks ago. And it's like, here we are already, you know, just a couple minutes away. Oh, we got Jimmy here in chat. I knew it. I knew he'd be listening, looking out for us. Is KOTOR really canceled? We're going to talk about tonight in just a second. That's kind of our main story. So I want to let some folks get in here before. I will just maybe say it's not officially canceled, but I have large concerns. I would leave it like that. But we'll talk more in detail shortly. Ben, how are you doing this week, my man?
I'm fine. I love how we're complimenting our shirts. I got the Flash red. You got the Flash logo. You combine the two, it kind of works together.
It is.
We are showing our flags, guys, that we're all across just nerds, right? It sometimes it translates from Star Wars, especially when you get like oversaturated a little bit, or in case of what's happening this summer, it's just a bit on the slow side before we get to Andor, and you kind of delve in, right? You kind of move on. So hey, you know, let's explore out there what other stuff is there to read. But I'm finally happy I'm getting into High Republic again after a year recess, because I just didn't realize, right? We were talking about, we started streaming, that the third wave is upon us, and I'm just starting on The Fallen Star. Ooh. And interestingly enough, I forgot who the author is. I just read the first chapter, and I had to look at the cover again. Oh, it's Claudia Gray. I'm going to love it. Like, I don't know why. I just come into certain books with a certain amount of confidence, not even expectations, right? You're like, hey, this is going to be great. So that's what I've been up to.
Claudia Gray had two of, I think, my favorite of the High Republic, you know, phase one. She had two of my top three. Right. Into the Dark and Fallen Star are my top two. I really liked Light of the Jedi. That's probably my number one, and that's obviously oh my gosh, I can't believe Charles Soule. Thank you. There we go. Took me a second.
Ever since Lost Stars, I just fell in love with her. She like became my instant fan favorite.
She does a really good job. I was very happy with her, with all of her books in the series. And just a fun fact before we get into it, as I see more folks joining in, tomorrow is the next High Republic show, so they'll probably announce some more details about some upcoming books here shortly. But you have a little time. You have a couple months left then to catch up before it is upon us. Well, guys, I will tell you, it is it's the calm before the storm. We've talked about this a lot. If you guys have watched the streams before, we have Andor coming in about a month now. We have Tales of the Jedi, the animated short series. We have the Bad Batch season 2, and then we have the High Republic phase 2. So we got a lot still coming this year. Early next year, we're going to get Mando season 3, and we're also going to get Vision season 2. So we're about to have a lot of content. But the last couple weeks, it's been a little slower. So it was Comic-Con this weekend. As you guys know, all the superhero properties were on. When I say all, I mean basically only Marvel, because DC only showed a couple of their upcoming projects. So it was mainly Marvel. Marvel's having some fun over there. I'll tell you, I thought this most recent phase of Marvel movies was the weakest as a total phase. Like some fine movies, nothing I really hated, but nothing I necessarily loved. You know, I thought Shang-Chi was really good. I really liked
Shang-Chi.
I did. I liked it a lot, and I liked had a lot of charm, had nice visuals, had a nice change of location and scenery, I thought, which worked in its advantage. It just felt a little fresh. And then I really liked No Way Home. Everyone liked No Way Home. But really and Moon Knight was good. I liked Moon Knight. Everything else was good. You know, it was fine. So I was a little down on Marvel. They went ahead and announced a ton of projects, which is really exciting. I will give Marvel a lot of credit, even though I feel like a lot of times they play it safe. They sometimes favor humor in place of like really I think impactful moments. Not that they haven't had those. I think Infinity War is just a phenomenal movie. The way they portrayed Thanos and let him take the lead there was so well done. In Winter Soldier is another fantastic movie where they absolutely understood to keep things with a great tone. But one thing I will give them a lot of credit for is under Kevin Feige, they have such a roadmap that they follow, such a good laid foundation. It's basically everything Disney kind of did wrong with the Star Wars new trilogy. Even if you love those movies, we can all acknowledge they were not necessarily well planned or cohesive.
Right.
And Marvel has gotten so good at that. So tip of the cap to them. I hope one day we have those same kind of interweavings. And we're getting a little bit of that with Mando, right? Mando's pretty well laid out, but hopefully we get to that one day. But
I think it's definitely a good point where, once Disney Plus, and I do believe they'll sort this thing out and they'll have like lay out the skeleton, have the general foundation. Once they have that, then it's going to be the matter of individual creators, right? Like Deborah Chow and Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni. It will rest on them. It's like, okay, we have the roadmap. We know what we're doing here. How each one of those projects is going to turn out is going to depend on the director. I'm pretty sure the same is the case with Marvel. I haven't been checking out their show because I honestly just felt oversaturated with it. But I'm hearing, like from my brother, from yourself, that some shows are clearly better than the others. But there's this whole vision that definitely translates on screen.
I do like from just a logistical perspective, a planning perspective, I am very impressed by the patience of a well-laid plan. It is very impressive what they've built. We did get one announcement as Star Wars fans during Comic-Con, which is Amandla, not Amanda. There's an L there. Amandla Stenberg is joining the Acolyte. We're all assuming as the lead here. Gotta love the shirt. She knows what she's doing. This is a smart individual right here. It's a fantastic Darth Maul. Got those 90s vibes to it, early 2000s. You gotta love it. This has been rumored for a while. I think we even talked about it in episodes past that she was a rumored lead for the show. Or maybe, I don't know if the character will follow. Maybe some shows have multiple kind of leads, right? Like 2 or 3 characters they follow. So I'm not sure if there'll be more, but I think it's safe to assume that she'll be a protagonist, or excuse me, maybe an antagonist, because it's definitely a Sith focused show. Very excited to see the show moving forward. I'll read one quote here I have from her. She did an interview after it was announced with, I think it was a podcast. I believe it was Den of Geeks. Let me see if I can find it here to confirm. Yeah, Den of Geeks. And this is her quote I really liked. It said, "My whole life is Star Wars," talking about what she's doing now to prep. Nice. So my whole life is Star Wars. I watch it before I go to bed. I read Star Wars. I listen to Star Wars podcasts. My life has transformed to be dedicated to this one universe. I like that a lot. There are some actors, especially more prominent, like, I'm trying to think of the word, more settled, more renowned actors or actors will join a large property like this, and maybe they have so many other projects, such a reputation, they don't have to like really, absorb it. But these kind of newer up and coming, when they get a big break like this, they have the kind of ability to really dive in. And so if she's reading Star Wars and she's loving it, I think that's super exciting. And I hope she's reading some of those great Sith novels past the main trilogy, maybe even Plagueis, right, to get herself prepped for the role. Right. She has a couple of roles that she might be known for. So when she was younger, she played Rue in the Hunger Games. And I think last year, is it Dear Evan Hansen? It was like a musical that became a movie. She played one of the supporting characters in that film last year. So that's kind of her most recent project. I'd be lying if I said I was very familiar with her work, but I love the shirt. I'm excited she's a Star Wars fan. Let's make it happen. Any thoughts here, Ben? I don't know if there's a lot to say. We got to see what comes out.
Yeah, I'm just actually enjoying the fact that they're introducing unknown characters. I always prefer that over established actors. Remember when you and I had our podcast on the prequels, I was saying that I was already a huge fan of Sam Jackson's work at the time, but I couldn't see him in Star Wars. His charisma and past work, it just was like too much. It overshadowed everything else in the prequels. With her, I'm interested to see how she's going to deliver on the physicality of the role, right? If she's indeed this antagonist that we assume she is, are they going to, because, you look at her frame and her form, maybe they'll accentuate more that she's lithe and she's supple or fast. She has to...
Like a rogue.
Exactly.
Kind of like a rogue
she has to work with tactics that is not necessarily brutal or head on. That would be interesting to see. Also, I'm always interested in actors have this very atypical, kind of like almost exotic facial proportions, very interesting and beautiful look. She's a beautiful looking actress. I also want them to play into that. What if she plays some kind of a very humanoid type of alien, right? Maybe
Oh,
like a
yeah. I
Twi'lek
don't know
or
what
someone
species
else.
she'll be. Yeah.
Not necessarily a human, right?
Yeah.
She could still be a Sith, rocking with the Force, and she's not necessarily a human, just a very exotic and beautiful looking lead character. So I'm very invested. I'm interested. I hope it comes out really cool. And like you mentioned before, I do enjoy the fact that she's familiar with all this material, because even though they may not necessarily tap into the legend stuff that what came before, she can still be very much informed by those characters and say, oh, you know what if I use this in my acting a little bit? What if I kind of deliver this little line as an Easter egg for fans like myself who just read into it and say, oh, cool, she knows, she's part of the family. That brings a lot of enjoyment to my heart.
Especially to your first point, I really like what you said. It made me think a lot, especially if one of the premises of the Acolyte is the Sith are in hiding at this point, right? Sith are absolutely into subterfuge and espionage. So if she's maybe infiltrating political offices or doing, like, it makes so much sense for her to kind of have that rogue-like character. I am very, very excited for this show. More so, I mean, it's hard not to be very excited about Ahsoka, right? A character with a huge legacy that we can see expand. But what's so cool about the Acolyte being, 100 years before the Phantom Menace is there is some play here. Like, it's of course going to be somewhat connected to the Skywalker saga, just based on where it falls. But it is quite separated. 100 years before is a lot of different, we could see a lot of different, even little things like ship design or building design or weapon design. There could be a lot of nice little subtle changes we can explore. Planets that might look totally different, maybe an early Coruscant, who knows, an earlier Coruscant. Like, it could be really, really interesting to see where they could go. So this was our little bit of news. Again, it's been long rumored, so it wasn't like break the internet, but could be very exciting. A show I know that we are all looking forward to next year. It'll be here sooner than you know. Well, that story is fun. That's an exciting story. Ben, I have to take us to
where are we going?
To a sad story.
What's the sad story?
It's a bummer. Well, if you guys saw my video earlier this week, you see the background, you saw the title. Knights of the Old Republic, the remake they announced last year in September, has been put on an indefinite hold, which I gotta be honest with you guys, that to me means canceled. I know it's not official. I know we can, maybe I'll be wrong and I'll get to make a video saying, hey, I was wrong. This is from Bloomberg. This is a legit publication. It's not like, Josh's back alley Star Wars secrets. This is it's a real publication, and they have some kind of insider knowledge here. So let me read the quote here, and then I'll pass it over to Ben. It says, in a series of meetings throughout July, Aspire's 2 studio heads told employees that the project is on pause and that the company will look for new contracts and development opportunities, said the people who are not authorized to speak publicly about the situation. That is not good. Specifically, it's on pause and we're looking for other development work. That means at the very least, it's going to be significantly delayed because they're going to take other projects on instead. To add to some of the news here, a little bit lower here, I think it notes they fired the design director, Brad Prince, and the art director, Jason Minor, last month in June. So they fired 2 prominent people attached with the project, and then they announced to their team that they are taking on other projects. Ben, I'm pretty bummed out about this, man. Where are you at? Tell us. I'll get into it after you, but you tell me. How are you feeling?
It's definitely a bit of an unfortunate news, but I wouldn't consider it all gloom and doom until we get the full story, because this could turn out in several different ways. This could basically be Lucasfilm Games, right, who still owns the rights to this property, saying, you know what, maybe we kind of rushed in a little bit with Aspire Media.
Yeah.
Let's consider what our options is. Let's go into full gears, hire, assemble a team, maybe outsource part of the game like the pod racing to someone else. Let's get snapped into it. Let's start doing it. Because I understand how a lot of fans are feeling, especially those who want to replay the game in the glorious new Unreal Engine 5 graphics and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, personally, my skin has been toughened by the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which took 20 freaking years to come out. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And even when the official announcement came out, and Josh, it was surreal seeing it on screen. I'm like, my brother was sitting next to me. We're watching the E3 live show live.
Yeah.
And throughout the entire trailer, I was screaming, no, they're not doing this. They're not finally. Like, because I knew in my heart of hearts that game was just too huge not to be remade. And when the trailer arrived, remember it went on some kind of like semi hiatus, and you know, like
it did.
for 2+ years we didn't hear a lot about it. But you know what? It resurfaced because I think the reputation of the project, like KOTOR, precedes itself, and no matter what kind of hardship it endures at the moment, I am pretty sure there are people who are just as passionate as the fans are and saying, well, you know what? All right, we got a little bit misstep here, but let's bring the energy back into it. Let's bring it into focus. Let's see what we can do to make it work again. Because I thought it was absolutely crucial and essential that Lucasfilm reinstated Lucas Games Arts, because now they serve as this proxy and they get to interact with all these different studios. And thank God EA has no longer exclusive rights to Star Wars, right? So all of these options they have laid out in front of them, like some fans who immediately feel like, oh man, this is the end of the world. Hey, you know what, maybe it turns out for the better. Maybe Asper Media was not perhaps the best choice for this. That's my take on it.
I don't, a lot of good points there, Ben, and good perspective. This is not uncommon for projects to get put on hold and then make a resurgence. I said in my kind of quick breaking news segment earlier this week that I was hoping maybe another studio would pick up a license. Maybe they realize, this studio who's done remakes, Aspire Studio has done remakes of old Star Wars games, but they've done ports more to like the Switch. They haven't quite done a full revamp of a game in a new engine per se.
Yeah.
And so this might have been a project they thought they could tackle and then realized, hey, we don't have maybe the funding or the time to really tackle this. For me, as someone who's never played the original KOTOR, when I saw this announcement in September, during a PlayStation kind of state of play, which I bought the new PlayStation 5, I was like, okay, sweet. This is worth the price of the console for me. Like having this coming to PS5 is going to be amazing. And so the hype was so high for me. I was like, I've always wanted to play the game. It's going to be a perfect opportunity to dive in with a refreshed look on my new system. And that doesn't look like it's going to be reality, or at least not as soon. At the very least, we can all expect it to be delayed. And for me, it's frustrating for the simple fact of like, there are times where you can look at a studio or a company and say, you have an obvious like path to success here. You can clearly like, this is going to do well. You're going to attract the fans who grew up and played these games on their Xbox, on their PC, and want to revisit it with an updated engine. And you're going to attract the other half of fans who maybe didn't have an Xbox or never got a PC. And by the time they got around to it, it was like an old game. And they were like, well, I don't really want to play such an old game. You would get so much buy-in, legendary characters like Revan that some fans have only heard about, never really seen. It just seems like a no-brainer. You know what I mean? Right. Like it feels like they just have to make this work. And so it's kind of frustrating that they seem to have such an obvious win on their hands and not really get it over the finish line, or really started, it seems like. Right. To your point, Ben, I think it was good perspective. This is not uncommon for the video game industry. Some projects that are shelved get second wind, and maybe we'll see that here again. It is certainly, though, a bummer, to say the least. It's just a bummer that we're here. And I think, that cinematic they did was really great. The Revan looked so good, had a nice voiceover. And we'll have to see what happens with KOTOR. I think you know what I'm gonna have to do, Ben? I think I'm gonna have to play through the old one now. I'm just gonna have to get it on PC.
I was gonna actually suggest that. Say, Josh, you have your little remedy, that little kind of like consolation.
I think I'm gonna have to. I was talking to Jimmy about this. I think I'm gonna have to like maybe stream it on like Saturday mornings. When we have one of those slower periods where like after Bad Batch season 2 wraps and we have a couple months before Mando or something. Make occasional videos out of it. Hang out with you guys on Saturday morning. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see what the future holds. Maybe we'll get a breaking announcement on this in the next couple weeks, and we'll find it's on the way. But I think where fans get frustrated, we talked about, as someone like myself, I'm pretty positive on the Disney Star Wars area. I think there's been more good than bad for certain. Like, this thing does frustrate me though, where you can see Marvel kind of craft a perfect plan, and for some reason Star Wars seems to struggle sometimes with like starting and stopping projects, and that's scrapped, and this is done. It's like,
and why? Like, you're the biggest film IP in the globe, in the world. I don't care how much money Marvel makes with these little like streaming shows. When you go to somewhere in Cambodia or Tibet, high in the mountains, you see Star Wars, people know it. It's when you have few companies, gaming studios, but prominent studios like Sucker Punch, like Naughty Dog, like Rockstar, who are anomalies because each and every game they produce, and it's always an instant classic every freaking time. You take all 4 Uncharted games, and each and every one of them is above the cut. It's amazing. Like, why don't you go to those guys and say, hey, would you like to work on Star Wars? Who's going to say no to that?
Well, and this is the other frustrating piece to it, is like Star Wars Eclipse, a game I was very excited for, and I know some fans are not happy with the studio. Apparently, the head of the studio is kind of a terrible guy.
Yeah.
They made games I really liked, Heavy Rain, Detroit Become Human, and I was like, okay, sweet. They got a studio who makes really innovative games to tell a Star Wars story in this unexplored era. And then rumors started coming out a couple months ago that the studio is like not staffed up enough to like deliver the game in any sort of, like, it's going to be like, I think I saw like 2025, which, hey, if the game comes out and it's great, I'll wait. I'll wait. I'd rather you delay it and it be great. But it seems like, to your point, Ben, like how can we not get some of the best studios in the world excited about making something with the Star Wars IP?
Yeah.
I mean, look at what they did with, Jedi Fallen Order. I mean, what a win. A single player game that absolutely just blew us away. It's getting a sequel. I mean, sold a ton of copies. Like, it's just frustrating. We can't seem to get the consistent kind of quality behind some of these projects. Even like Squadrons last year, right? A focus on Starship. I mean, they've had some great games. We just wish it was maybe a little more steady or stable, for lack of a better word. Look at this. Never gonna see this now, Ben.
I just hope they do the right move and focus on studios that, like, hey, maybe we can't deliver this AAA mega title soon enough, but maybe we can, in the meantime, in the interim, hire a studio who's expert in RTS game and do a Star Wars RTS game, which will take a year or two.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I'd love it.
Prioritize. It's like divide the labor. And to me, it was the silliest idea 10 years ago to give all that free reign to EA, knowing even back then, their reputation was awful.
Terrible.
I mean, they turned BioWare into a husk of its former self. A leading gaming premier studios, mind-blowing, innovative ideas, just rock dynamite star studio that just went down the drain. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Keep your doors open. Like, don't put all your eggs in the same basket. Like, experiment with different studios.
I'm very hopeful that Jedi Survivor, the sequel to Fallen Order, maintains that quality. Hits another home run for them, because the first one was fantastic. Yeah. And we'll see. I mean, we'll have to see what comes out, but for now, I know fans are disappointed. What was cool about this game too, last thing I'll say about it, is a lot of fans have this this kind of opinion that Disney's like really disrespected what's come before. They hate Legends, etc. So every time they do projects like this, a remake of KOTOR, or they re-release the Legends books with new covers, I think it's always a nice kind of uniting moment where new fans can be excited and old fans can kind of be excited. And so, it was cool in that regard. It kind of crossed eras of fans. And so it stinks that it's not going to be a success. Now, there's a question here. It's a good question by Blue Pig, which is, what happened to Star Wars Hunters? Well, let me go ahead and actually pull that up. So for those who don't know, Star Wars Hunters was going to
one, right?
Yeah, it was going to be on Switch and mobile phones. It's going to be kind of like an arena shooter. And it got delayed to 2023. Long story short.
It got delayed too. Okay.
Yeah, it did. And it was in some sort of, I'm trying to pull up, it was in some sort of like closed beta, I think, for a while. And I think maybe they realized we're not where we need to be, or we're lagging behind, and we need more time to
Can I
balance the
speculate
game.
a second?
Yeah, go for it.
What if they invest more into it, put more assets, create more gameplay elements, add a little bit of story, and go from free to play to kind of like a full-fledged, like let's say $20, $30 online game that is really worth the buck? I'd pay for it.
I wish so many game studios, like, I know why they sell mobile games the way they do, right? They make a ton of money with the kind of model they have. But like, if some games would come out on mobile and say, hey, it's $40, but here's all this content, I'd be more willing to buy it than if you try to nickel and dime me $5, $10 at a time. And that would really, that would be a good model here. I'd be very excited. They said, hey, Star Wars Hunters, $30. You can play it on your Switch or on your smartphone. You get all the characters and, some skins, and it's online only, have fun. Like, I'd be much more willing to pay for that than a lot of the models they take, which is, you got to pay to unlock characters.
I really enjoyed what they did with NetherRealm Studios with Mortal Kombat 10, not the latest one, with the one before it. You had the main console game, and then you had free-to-play mobile game where if you connected them via your email, whatever progress you're making in the mobile game, which it was sort of grindy,
Oh,
but
yeah.
Then you could unlock stuff for free for the main game, like costumes and like crypt chests and stuff like that. That's great. Sweet. That's
great. That's a really good idea. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the announcement, by the way. We are working tirelessly to achieve our vision for Star Wars Hunters. Our ambition is to create a competitive battle arena game that will entertain you for years to come. To ensure we meet the high expectations we are setting for fans globally and ourselves as developers, we have made the decision to delay the worldwide launch of Star Wars Hunters. We invite all players to join us when Star Wars Hunter launches in 2023 on Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android devices. We understand game delays are frustrating. However, our top priority is ensuring players will have the best possible experience in the arena. So that's what happened to Star Wars Hunters.
I applaud that. I welcome that. When they're transparent like this, when they communicate with fans, they explain the reason why, what's behind it. Go for it, man. Just make it a better game.
Ben, you talked about like a Star Wars strategy game, an RTS, or even like an XCOM style game would be just phenomenal. Can you imagine like an XCOM? For those who don't know what XCOM is, here's how I'll describe it at a high level. You have like a band of heroes, and they all have maybe specialists or abilities that you can level up, and you go to almost like a board game map, and you move your soldiers around the field and hide them behind cover, and you have turns. Like, you can do like 2 moves a turn. And, after battle, you can upgrade your troops. And what's really fun is you can name them. And the like default way to play is permadeath. So if like you have a soldier, named Jimmy, and you've been leveling Jimmy up, he's like your heavy gunner, and then you make a wrong move and Jimmy gets killed, he's gone. Like, Jimmy's gone. All that work I put into Jimmy, he's gone. So could you imagine like a game with a group of clone troopers, like during the Clone Wars, where you're fighting like battles, and you can like name your clones, and you can like get them their armor and their hairstyle, and like you have permadeath on, so you could lose like you're the commander, and you could lose like it would be so cool, right?
I love that, especially when they have basically Fire Emblem games on Nintendo are known for that, where the game is basically split into 2 major segments. One segment is the storytelling. You get to meet your characters, interact with them, kind of bond outside the main gameplay loop. And then you're thrown back into the combat. It makes it so much more juicy and interesting, because now you're not only strategizing like on a chessboard, now you're worried about the heroes. You want them to survive.
Exactly.
Like I said, if you have the perma-death option on, then the stakes are so freaking high, man. If your character dies, like, you ask yourself, man, do I want to replay a 40-plus minute campaign? Like, nah, that's it. This character's gone.
It adds, and like, I could just see and you don't have to just do like the clone era. You could do like the Rebellion, or you could do just 100. You could do it in any
different
era.
periods. Like, remember the original PS2 Battlefront 2 when it went through all the eras? Do that.
You could do it so many different ways. The first one could take in the Clone Wars. The next one could take place in in the original trilogy. The other one could take place. It would just be so much fun. I'd love to see that. I would love to see that. And it seems like there's so many good ideas that the IP could fit in, because Star Wars has every type of genre covered. Let me explain. You can have very military base games where you like Battlefront, where you're like you're shooting your guns and you're fighting your battles. You could also have your starship based games like Squadrons. You could have your more fantasy like games where you're a Jedi or a Force user, right? There are so many genres that Star Wars can go into, and we've seen them do it. Like, it's just a gold mine. I just love to see more of them. You just love to see more of them. Okay. Star Wars games have been good in the last year. They've been very good in the last couple of years. We hope they maintain it with Survivors. But I have a question for you.
Sure.
Ben. Let me go ahead and share some secret information.
From your inside sources?
No. From the internet's inside sources here.
Okay.
So Lucasfilm has filed for 3 new trademarks, which could hint at future Star Wars projects. These are the 3 titles that they trademarked: the Great Circle, the Galactic Circle, and Circle of Resistance. Now, let's pause real quick. You might say to yourself, Josh, why do I care what Lucasfilm trademarks? I feel like they trademark titles all the time. Just last week on Thursday, Marvel applied for 3 trademarks: Avengers Secret Wars, Avengers Kang Dynasty, and Captain America New World Order. And what do you think was announced at Comic-Con that weekend? 3 movies with those exact same titles. When these big companies apply for these kind of things, they're not just like, there's something in the works, right? And so my opinion on this is 3 possible titles for some project. I think it's probably, obviously the circle has some significance, right?
Right.
So I think these are the 3 titles they're kind of debating. I've seen some people speculate it's some sort of trilogy. This person said a trilogy of projects set during different eras. The Great Circle could be the originals. The Galactic Circle's the prequels, and the Circle of Resistance is like, the Disney sequel trilogy. Book series incoming. A lot of people are speculating on what this could be. It is certainly interesting. So what do you think? First of all, did you know about the Great Circle?
No, you caught me completely off guard. I totally missed this, man.
I got to tell you what. I'll tell you this right now, Ben. If there's a movie called Star Wars The Great Circle, you're going to have to sell me on that, because that's a terrible title, okay? I don't know. I don't know who's
the real name.
Like, I'm a positive guy here, guys, but The Great Circle is a terrible name for a movie.
Are they going to live like Starkiller, like Simba, like the circle of life? No?
Oh my gosh, it'll be like the Death Star, but a Halo ring. It'll be a Halo like ripoff of the Great Circle, and it will shoot just like that. Now, when I read the Galactic Circle or the Circle of Resistance, I can kind of get more of a vibe, right? The Circle of Resistance could be like a tight network of various rebel cells trying to overthrow the government, and it could be like a show about these, these groups, maybe connected to Andor or something.
Right.
The Galactic Circle does sound almost like a Senate type of setting, but the Great Circle, I'm sorry, guys, it's just not. It's not for me.
It doesn't connect with prequels in any conceivable way that I could identify. I'm like, what Great Circle? Yeah, we have the Jedi supposedly at their prime, at their peak, but that's not any kind of circle. I don't know. I'm still scratching my head over this. I don't like to speculate too much on what it could.
Yeah, we're just having fun here.
Yeah, but I'm thinking to myself what I would want this to be now that you're showing it to me. Because
tell me.
I am paying, attention. If they're announcing something like this, indeed, it doesn't sound like it's a trilogy of separate films, like something like Rian Johnson's trilogy is upon us. No,
right?
Because the names kind of don't spell that out. I would put my cards on this being introducing the new iterations, new tiers, publishing campaigns in the comic books and novels. Yeah, it makes the most sense to me.
I would too. Just the way I can't see a movie or a show with this kind of title.
Yeah,
like I could a comic.
Where's it going?
Yeah, I could. Well, one thing I almost thought for a second was like, is there some sort of? So we just talked about Eclipse, and Eclipse showed almost entirely different looking factions. So is one of the factions called like the Galactic Circle, or I don't know, is there something going on there? Maybe it's a name of like
those drumming aliens in the beginning,
right? Is there something, I don't know. To me though, I have no idea what this could mean. I have seen a lot of speculation. I gotta be honest with you guys, See, like, sounds like a trilogy. I just don't think it does. Could you imagine Star Wars The Great Circle, Star Wars The Galactic Circle, and Star Wars Circle of Resistance? I think comic runs is probably the best guess.
Let me give you like an out there super wild question. I've heard it being asked across like different Star Wars fandom groups. Would you be down for a completely fresh set of directors coming in and completely redoing all 9 Star Wars films, not copying them, not like soft reboots, but completely re-envisioning the story?
Almost like an Elseworld What If kind of style. Yes. Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I'm totally down for that. I think recently, especially when Star Wars is free, when like Envisions, where you just do whatever you want, tell a story about a weird robot boy who ends up getting a lightsaber and fight, it works so well because the structure of Star Wars, the images, the iconic nature of Star Wars lends itself to like really creative people doing fantastic things. I think like Ninth Jedi, where you have the really crazy idea of lightsabers change color and strength based on your connection to the Force. So a Sith picks it up, it's red, it passes over to a Jedi and it's green or blue. If you're kind of, a newbie, it's kind of translucent because you're trying to figure it out. That's a fantastic idea I've never thought about. So some really creative people, they got the reins, they did amazing things. So I'm always down for really creative people. So we'll see what the Great Circle could be.
I'm interested.
Maybe we can kind of segue this into another topic. Maybe it'll be kind of like a documentary style show, like a making of. Because for those who don't know, I'll probably pull up something here. This week, Light and Magic launched on Disney Plus, which is a new docuseries following what is the company? ILM, or what is it?
It's Light and Magic.
Yeah. Which gives us a lot of looks at the making of Star Wars. Have you started it yet, Ben?
Yeah, I'm on 3rd episode.
How is it?
It's fantastic. I love it. A lot of it is information that I've kind of accumulated throughout the years, reading the making of books and various George Lucas interviews, like, his famous car crash. He talks about his youth, early years. Yeah. But I really enjoyed what they did with the first 2 episodes. Really, the stars, the focus on the first 2 episodes are the heart and soul of it is the crew. It's not George Lucas. It's not the obvious big names like, like Ralph McQuarrie and stuff like this. It's the guys, the names that you don't get to hear enough. Even for myself, some of these names, like, oh my God, yeah. I remember back in like 2001, this guy showed up in a documentary or questionnaire or stuff like this. Now they're really bringing them to the forefront and making these unsung heroes, giving them the spotlight. And once again, man, you come and tell me to my face that, Disney, they care all about money. There's so much love and effort put into it. I would categorize it so much more than just a documentary. It's like preservation of Star Wars history. I'm really interested to see where these episodes will go into Star Wars special editions, and will they kind of reconcile and recognize what the films were before alterations, where they are now, when George Lucas decided to go and lean heavily into CGI. All of these steps are so crucial and necessary for Star Wars evolution. They're doing a brilliant job.
So let me ask you 2 questions. Number 1, how many episodes are there?
I believe 6.
6. Okay, so you're almost halfway. You're halfway through.
Yeah.
So for a fan who might have seen the trailer and they're like, I don't know, how much of a focus does it have on Star Wars versus things like Indiana Jones and other projects he worked on? Is it pretty heavy in the Star Wars?
No. It actually does go a little bit outside, and I really enjoy docs that kind of, before they get into the juicy parts, the things that you sort of expect to see as a Star Wars fan, they paint the canvas for you. They show you the environment where each artist comes from, how their formative years were like before they started contributing to Star Wars. What was like each and every person's, well, not literally every person, but which major figures kind of contributed, and what was their major contribution to bringing George Lucas's vision to life. It's just on so many fronts. It's, you know what it is? It is not only a story of the making of a film, it's really a story of lifestyles of these really oddball, like really weird fringe kind of like artist nerd kind of guys that we can identify with, and they're just throwing it together and giving this movie their hearts. And when you watch after the first episode, you realize like, oh my God, yes, obviously George Lucas is the creator. Obviously it's his baby. But Star Wars is not George Lucas. I'm sorry. There's just so many people involved. They just executed it on so many levels. It's brilliant, man.
So
I didn't expect it to be that good.
Well, that's really exciting to hear, because I was very excited for it. I haven't had a chance to start yet, but now I'm even more excited. So let me ask this. For the interviews, obviously they're using old footage. Do they have like new interviews with George Lucas himself? Is there like new footage recorded?
Yeah, I almost, even now, I'm like, oh my God, like I missed you. Like he's your grandfather. He's our collective grandpa, man. I'm like, oh man. It's like, and I was scared for a second.
Yeah.
Seeing him again, because we haven't seen him for a couple of years. Is he going to be like, slower in speech and kind of like showing that advanced each? And man, like not only the man's faculties are all there, he's like, just as you see that this boyish, rebellious spirit in him, like when he's talking about, oh, we wanted to do this, and then they show it that it's his film, his creation, his documentary, and then they sort of kind of like very cautiously and reverently put him on the side a little bit there and tell about the people that he brought to the project. And they kind of focused the first episodes in that. It's
exciting to me that he obviously was down to meet for this project, right? And so that to me kind of implies, at the very least, he has a pretty good, like a pretty average relationship with the folks at Disney. I mean, a lot of people forget, like Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas worked together a long time before. I mean, he actually... Like I understand no one likes, I know it's a sensitive subject here, but George Lucas kind of handpicked Kathleen Kennedy to take over for him. Now, did he like everything she did? I'm sure he didn't, but I also believe he actually likes her quite a bit. I really believe that. And so it's very cool that he's still willing to, like when he gets a call, like, hey, we want to make a documentary, that he's down to answer and that he's down to do it. Because some people, they become, almost burdened by what they made, and they don't even want to talk about it, or they're like, I'm done with that. I don't want to really even interact with that. So to me, it's really cool that he was willing to like, yeah, I'll sit down and give you guys some interviews for your new, 6-part documentary about my process of making Star Wars. And to your point, a lot of the people who really made it a possibility. And that's really cool. That's very exciting stuff.
Now, can we speculate just a little bit more?
Yeah, let's go for it.
What if one of those circle things that if we can circle back a little bit too,
circle back,
right? What if they are kind of like opening the doors, because they did open the doors for George Lucas? You see him on the set of Mandalorian.
Yep.
You see him showing up, interacting with Ron Howard on Solo. He is, I would assume, like me and Josh are not going to speculate. We have like inside sources, but I think it's safe to assume that he's still part of the family. He's a little bit grumpy. He doesn't like this or that for some obvious reasons, for some personal reasons, but he's still there. What if they say, well, you know what? He is kind of like getting up there in the years. Can we give him just like one project in some kind of capacity to maybe advise or inspired by, or pen something in the air that they kind of take it for a spin, whatever he kind of throws at them? A very loose, kind of like a friendly and interesting collaboration where like, and they could slap all over it from the creator himself. I think that would be fabulous.
I think that's a genius idea. I think what's fascinating about George Lucas, like, and how he's kind of, how this perception in the fandom has kind of shifted. Out of the original trilogy, it's like this man can do no wrong. The prequel era, a bunch of old fans like, well, George Lucas fell off his rocker. He's a crazy person. George Lucas sells it. George Lucas, and I don't feel this way, but it's funny how it's like George Lucas sold Star Wars for $4 billion. I don't think some people can even fathom how much money that is. $4 billion is generational wealth, generational wealth. And he somehow ends up, after Disney takes over, as like the sympathetic victim character in some fans' mind. And it's just such a funny trip from like hero to villain to like, we want his redemption arc almost, right? And when really, I think if you talk to George, I'm not sure he feels that way at all. I feel like if you talk to George, he might be like, yeah, I don't like what they did with Star Wars here, and here. But like, I actually don't know if he's that. Here's why I don't believe he that passionately hates new Star Wars. Like you said, Ben, he's on the set. We've seen him holding Grogu. We've seen him we've seen him do interviews for this. Like, if the guy was so cold and like upset, he wouldn't ever even feign his endorsement by being on set. Exactly. And people might think like, oh no, of course he would. It's good PR. There's a lot of artists, like the artsy types, who like something they did or a project they made or a song they wrote, like when they're done with it, like they don't want to interact with it. They don't want to revisit it. They don't want to get together for reunions. It's not uncommon at all. I'm trying to think of some specific example where an artist like hated what they were known for, but it's not uncommon. And so he could have easily just taken his $4 billion and sailed off in the sunset, and he could go on an interview every week and trash Disney. Exactly. What are they going to do? Yeah. He's got $4 billion, but he chooses not to do that, right? He goes and makes an appearance at Star Wars Celebration a couple years ago. He appears in documentaries like this. He goes to, to sets and takes pictures and photo ops. I mean, it's pretty big of him to do that, actually. I just want to kind of acknowledge that. He could easily just sit at home with his money and say, screw you guys, I'm never coming back out. But he seems to, like, at least, like you said, a little cranky maybe, but he remains kind of part of the family, which I think is really cool. So it's really cool that he recorded new footage for this. That's really exciting. Well, I got something to watch this weekend now, Ben. I got to catch up on all the
I'll be interested to hear what you say. Maybe we can like bring it back into the next live stream, talk a little bit more about this, because it's just fascinating, man.
I love the making of series, like the making of the Book of Boba Fett. I love it. Like it's like an hour. I think it's like an hour and a half, hour 20 minutes. Like even if you don't love one of the shows or something, just like watching the process behind it, and like with Book of Boba Fett, for example, where they were really limited by COVID restrictions. They filmed a lot of that in like literally, I'm not exaggerating, a parking lot. Like literally a parking lot where they just made piles of dirt and put up a green screen thing and like filmed like right there, like in a parking lot. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of crazy. Like I'm very impressed with the levels of talent and creativity behind just the mechanics of these projects.
Speaking of the makings of, I remember watching all of the material outside of the prequel films before each one comes out, all the documentaries, all the tying into mythology, and George Lucas giving all these interviews. Josh, it was fascinating to watch. Like, every single film that was coming out, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, I was just glued to this screen, like, how is this made? Because you come off with a certain expectation and reaction of the film, and then you sort of toss those feelings aside, but then what really pulls you back in, and it's not just your feeling towards the film, but how it was made. Like, what the heck? Exactly. How did they accomplish? At one point, I remember I thought that all of the episode 1 was done against blue screen. But then they started showing documentaries before the movie came out. I'm like, wait a second. This has more practical sets than all of the Star Wars films before. That's interesting. Okay, I'm hyped. I want to see it.
So this video on YouTube on the official Star Wars channel from 8 years ago, they have the making of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. It's an hour and 6 minutes, totally free. What this one is really cool is there is no commentary. There's no narrator. It's just behind the scenes footage, like throughout the filming. And there's some there's screen tests for young Anakin. Like actors came in and read it. And then George was like, I liked his delivery better, but he's got better like emotion. And it's so, I highly recommend you guys watch this. It is so cool. And it's free, put it on in the background, watch maybe 10 minutes at a time. It is so awesome. It's on YouTube, official Star Wars channel, the beginning, making Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Totally worth the watch. So much fun. So, oh man, you can't help but like wish you were there, like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have been in that room and had those conversations. Super cool. Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk this week about some amazing product news.
Of course.
You know me. I love I'm the number one Star Wars purchaser here in the US.
I want to find out how much your rates are these days. What are they paying you?
If they paid me in hot toys, I'd be okay. If Disney just sends me one of these every once in a while.
That would work.
Because guys, we have here the new hot toy for Darth Vader coming out of Kenobi. And this is just so cool. I love this so much. I'm always blown away with the level of detail these figures get. This one includes Reva's lightsabers broken up. I mean, it comes with 2 different bases. You'll see the kind of Imperial, vents. and you also get the kind of stone base, so you could kind of see him versus Kenobi, right? But I mean, just look at the detail in the face sculpt. It is just so impressive. You'll notice here it's the broken chest piece from the push with the ripped mask. Also comes with the, I mean, just look at that detail. I don't even think it does justice over stream to see how well they kind of capture their eyes and their likeness. So phenomenal. You can see him here with the fixed chest piece and mask.
I would say it is by far my favorite Hot Toys Vader figure. I mean, they nailed it.
And what's great
the way, like Hayden Christensen's likeness, the scale of it, like how the ruined helmet really looks the part. It doesn't look like it's pre-assembled. It really feels like a lightsaber just cut right down through it.
Yep.
And giving him that signature wound on the skull that we see later in Return of the Jedi. Oh man, it is fantastic.
This pose right here, can you imagine this on your shelf? Like, this is just, and these capes have wires in them typically for Hot Toys, so you can actually pose them like this. It's not like they just lay limp. You actually pose them. And this just, I mean, you can't help but be a Star Wars fan and get excited about seeing. Again,
I'm pretty sure I'm going to see both on your shelf at one point.
Yes, you are.
Because you're simping for this show. You were like all in.
So
give me more. I see Kenobi and Vader on your shelf.
I've made, and I want chat to weigh in here. So I had pre-ordered, and I'll show everyone real quick.
Yeah,
we do have a Kenobi as well, and so you can, of course, they gave him the floating rock base, which is kind of cool. So and that's an actual stand.
High ground post. Can you switch back to the first post just for a second?
Yeah.
I have the high ground, Anakin.
You gotta love it.
Look at that pose.
You gotta love it. And and that's actually the base it comes with. It comes with a floating rock kind of stand, which is really cool.
I didn't see this one.
Yep, this one's, you know, when it comes to Kenobi, it's not quite as, they'll probably do some work on the face sculpt here. It looks a little lifeless. But they typically do touch-ups like the Batman from Robert Pattinson's Batman, the Hot Toy, like they showed the model of the face, and about 3 months later they said, hey, here's the updated one. They kind of work on it as they go, because this is not released until next year, so they have quite a bit of time before they actually.
Oh man, look at that. See, here he looks right.
He does, yeah. I think
lighting is also a big part of it.
I think so. But the Vader one,
I love the pose.
It's just,
I have the high ground.
The Vader one is just too good. It's too good.
Yeah. No, they're both excellent.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, so I had pre-ordered the Obi-Wan lightsaber from the show because I like lightsabers because they're easy to kind of display. I have some on my shelf over here. I have some on the wall back there. Like, they're kind of easy to just mount, and it's kind of a cool little thing. And I also had pre-ordered the Vader helmet from the show with the red eyes, which I was like, oh, I love when they kind of lean into that red look. But I was thinking last night, I wonder if I should cancel those and instead pre-order these two Hot Toys instead.
I would go for Hot Toys.
I think so too. So I got the the Vader versus Kenobi poster right here. Maybe get a little shelf there and put them on there, posed right under it. I got a little outlet right there, so maybe I could put like a light feature. Right yeah, I think I got to do it, guys. I think
Hot Toys. Josh is a huge fan of yours. If you're seeing this, if you want to post your commercials in his live stream, please do.
Yes, please. You know what? This will make you excited, Mr. Ben. I have my first Hot Toy coming in just maybe a couple weeks now.
To my address. It's my late birthday present. I want to get excited here.
I have Hunter coming from the Bad Batch. It's the only Hot Toy I'll own. I felt like the reason I went with Hunter is I really liked the design of Hunter's really good. I love the way the clone armor has been like altered. It's like subtle but cool. I also like the face sculpt. It's like the Tamara Morrison, but like Rambo. It's kind of fun. But it's like I thought it was a very fun standalone. It's one of my favorite Star Wars animated. I love them in the last season of the Clone Wars, and I love them in their own show. And I think it's just such a great design. Like, it just feels really good to me put on a shelf over there. Like, it's just really, really cool. And there's some really fun ways to pose it. And I felt like going with the leader of the crew was like a good idea. He's kind of like, he's the leader of the Bad Batch. If you get like Echo, who I really love Echo, it just doesn't feel quite right. You kind of want the leader.
See, sorry.
No, go ahead.
When the first trailer was revealed and we saw the whole team once again is going to be like going from the Clone Wars. They're going to be in their own show.
Yeah.
I thought Hunter is going to be my main guy in the show, but it turned out to be Omega, man.
Yeah, Omega was really
just fell for Omega. Her story is just man. It's like rewatching the original trilogy and Luke's coming of age all over again.
I am so pleasantly surprised what they did with that character. Like how easy it could have been to bring in this young, kind of quirky and energetic character and make her really unlikable. But they have such a way. I mean, think about Ahsoka in the Clone Wars and then Omega. Like they have such a way of taking characters that, like, if you described the archetype to me, I'd be like, no one wants to see some young, plucky clone trooper, or clone. No, but like in the show, she's such a valuable part of the character. Like she's so valuable to the team that, like, how could we have gone without her?
Yeah, this one is perfect. They got somewhere his likeness 100%.
Yeah, it really does. They nail his likeness in these head sculpts. It's crazy. But I felt like a pose like this would look so good on the shelf, something like this. He's just got like a real kind of simple, but let's get up in the face here. Look at that. That's wild.
Fantastic, yeah, man.
It's especially wild because he never looked like this. He never had the hair.
Yeah,
like that.
We have like an animated version.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's dope.
Oh man, what a cool Vader figure. My wallet's hurting, so I'm waiting for Hot Toys to sponsor the stream, and then we'll be good to go.
You need that Vader and that Kenobi. Based on your reaction to the show, I would expect no less from you.
The Vader is like, it feels like a non-negotiable. It feels like because even if, let's say, you hated Kenobi, like there's the default mask. You can still put on his old mask and just have him posed looking amazing. You don't even have to like acknowledge the show. So it feels like it's such a good like value. You can pose them like the original trilogy Vader. You can pose them like Rogue One Vader, if you love the Rogue One, which, by the way, kind of closing thoughts here. I rewatched the scene where him and Krennic have their kind of back and forth. It's such a good scene. Yeah. It's just so good the way
I really enjoyed that both Vader and Tarkin were brought into the film. They weren't just there like for the sake of, hey, by the way, it's that time period. We kind of need to sign off on these two characters. Yeah. No, especially Tarkin. I wanted more of him.
Yeah, Tarkin is one of those characters, like, he feels like he's easy to forget, but like the minute he's brought in, you're like, oh my gosh, he's such like a staple of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like he doesn't have quite the legacy of a Vader or the iconic, but he is yet so important. Like I think of when they pull him into even the Clone Wars, it's like such a cool little like, oh, this is like this so fits with how you'd expect his kind of reign to go. It's very cool. I love that a lot. The dialogue is so good between him and Krennic. I just adore that. Don't choke on your ambition. It's just a fantastic line too. He just has such a presence. It's such a good scene. I love that scene.
I kind of want to go and rewatch the sequels after finishing the Shadow of the Sith.
Yeah.
Kind of, I think the whole, Ochi of Bistoon, I like rewatch because the movie that I watched the least, and not because I dislike it, is The Rise of Skywalker, because I start with the trilogy. Sometimes I trail off. I need to come back to it. I've seen it maybe like 2 or 3 times since it popped off on Disney Plus. I want to watch it again. It's the movie that I remember the least.
I agree with that. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm going to end it with this kind of zoomed in here. How fantastic is that? That's so cool, right?
It's calling to you. You know that.
Next week, Ben, Lego Beach Party, Summer Beach Party comes out of Disney Plus. That might be a fun little goofy short. I will tell you what, I'm very excited because Weird Al did the official song. It's called Scarif Beach Party. And I'm telling you, that song's gonna be a banger. I'm just ready for that song to just be
came out of retirement
on repeat. He did the song for the show or the movie, excuse me. So next Friday, summer vacation Lego Star Wars special. It'll be kind of goofy. I'm sure it'll be fun for the kids. And we'll do a live midnight reaction. No, I'm just kidding. But we are getting close, guys, to Andor. Thank you for being here this week. It has been a fun little week. A little bit of stories, little exciting things to talk about. This beautiful figure, which, by the way, this lightsaber does glow. LED lightsaber. So that's it really glows. You can tell how excited I'm about this, guys. This is it's so cool. I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. But thank you guys for stopping by. We'll be back next week, hopefully with our full crew we'll have Jimmy back from his move, and we'll be excited to talk about more Star Wars. Until then, go check out Ben's channel if you haven't already. Make sure you like and subscribe. Give some of his recent podcasts some watches, and we'll be back again.
Just a bit of encouragement. Don't get bumped with this whole KOTOR announcement. Look, these things just happen. Persevere. I'm pretty sure I'm, as a gamer who's been gaming all my life, it's just too big of an IP for them not to do. Sooner or later, it will resurface. We'll get that bit of a good, hopeful news. Just stay tuned, guys.
That's right. Thank you, Ben, for the closing optimism. I hope so. I'd love it. In a couple years, we'll be sitting here, our stream, we'll have 100,000 people in here watching with us, and we'll be talking about how we're about to play KOTOR all night long, the remake. I'm ready for it. So thank you guys for stopping by. We'll see y'all again